Broadcasting from the beautiful Hill Country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com.
Talk to Patrick now, 888-663-6386, or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Okay, here we go, hour 2 of our show on 15 July 2013. Andrew Goss on Wednesday, Real World Money. Dr. Hal Huggins tomorrow. It's always fun talking to him. He's really a fascinating guy. I've been looking at the world of, well, much more than Mercury, of course, but he was the Mercury guy, I guess, 40, 50 years ago, and really brought it out to the forefront. And we're going to talk about root canals tomorrow, some more of the research he's doing, and also his blood test, and get your right kind of sodium levels up there that he's been working on. Now to Dr. Carolyn Dean. Interesting lady, over 30 books, wow, including How to Change Your Life with Magnesium, the Future Health Now Encyclopedia, The Death of Modern Medicine. Her website is drcarolyndean.com. Good morning, Dr. Dean.
Good morning, Patrick. Great to be with you. And I'm already hearing so many things that associate with magnesium. You're talking about mercury, you're talking about soil depletion, you're talking about practicing medicine without a license. So let's do it. Let's do that.
It's almost like we knew you were coming,
yes.
Doctor. So you know, we've heard this, and George said it, Dr. Dean. But I mean, what is this this idea that so many Americans are deficient in magnesium? Where does this number come from? Is this just an urban rumor? That's out there and say, wow, and it's kind of easy to say everybody's deficient in magnesium. Where does it come from? Where does that research come from?
Actually, I have it quoted in my book, Magnesium Miracle, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, that about 80% of the population is taking below the RDA of magnesium. And as you know about RDAs, recommended daily allowances, they're only set by the government in order to make sure a person doesn't have a frank deficiency. They have no mandate to give magnesium or any other nutrient to people that is therapeutic. I think as soon as they start calling minerals and vitamins therapeutic, they're going to classify them as drugs, and then we're all going to be in Codex Alimentarius trouble.
Huh. Dr. Dean is a medical doctor. She's also a naturopath, herbalist, acupuncturist, nutritionist, lecturer, author. She lives in Hawaii. Oh, well, good for you. Mm-hmm. What time is it there? 5 in the morning?
It is 5 in the morning.
Oh, God love you. And I see a picture on your website. Do you work standing up?
I try. I do a lot of computer work, so I don't get all scrunched over. I have a standing desk that I work at most of the time.
And you live in Maui?
I do.
Oh, what a beautiful place that is. What's that? What's that lovely city right in Lahaina? Is it Lahaina?
Lahaina is on the coast. I'm more in the Wailea area above the hotel strip. Maui is amazing. It has all the different ecosystems. We have rainforests, we have deserts, and it's tiny, and it's quite amazing. I live in paradise.
Yeah. How long have you lived out there?
5 years.
Yeah. Before then, where'd you live?
New York for about 12, 13.
New York to Maui, man, there was a change, right?
Oh, man, it really was. And a good change.
Yeah, well, good for you. So don't we just get, though, Dr. Dean, enough magnesium just going around our local health food store and farmers markets and grass-fed meat and all that? Don't we get enough magnesium?
Nope.
No,
we don't.
How come?
And, well, your last interview sounded like it was about soil and soil depletion. Mm-hmm. And what's happened with the minerals in the soil is if they are not replaced with fertilizers that contain these minerals, you just aren't going to get them. And you take something like Roundup, Monsanto's Roundup, Ready herbicide, the chemical glyphosate is binding minerals. It will bind magnesium, removing 50% of it from the soil. But, I mean, it's not even there anyway. And then Roundup has a half-life of 23 years. So you take the fact that we're using the herbicides, not replacing them. In 1934, there was a Senate committee talking about the deficiency of minerals in the soil and how we were ending up to be a fat nation as people ate more and more to try to garner at least some of the nutrients they required. So we've known about this for a long time, and it's never been rectified. And people think, well, I'll eat organic, that'll help. But if your organic farmer does not replace with minerals, like rock dust minerals, you're out of luck.
And you have no way of knowing, really, do you? I mean, you go to the
No.
Whole Foods or natural food store, or farmer's market. We don't really know, do we?
No, but what we have, again, from the USDA, they have all these facts and figures. You just have to dig for them. But 100 years ago, we were getting 500 milligrams of magnesium in an average diet, and now we're lucky to get 200. And the RDA is like maybe 300, 400 milligrams. But I'm seeing now that people probably need 2 and 3 times that amount. We're burning it off at incredible rates. If you have mercury in your mouth or mercury toxins in your body from vaccines and etc., or just breathing, if you live near a coal-burning plant or a crematorium, you're having mercury in your body that competes with magnesium and interferes with magnesium, which is biologically in the body, it's got at least 325 enzyme systems that it's responsible for, including energy from ATP. If you don't have magnesium, you don't have energy. And then, it goes downhill from there. You've got drugs now. About 50% of the commonly used drugs are bound with substances that are incredible. I mean, when I tell you that fluoride is used in 50% of the drugs just to make them more active, and then you find that fluoride binds magnesium, kind of like mercury does, and makes it unavailable. You've got a drug like Cipro, and Cipro will cause tendon rupture. But before that happens, you get muscle pain, you get muscle spasms to the point of tendon rupture. That, I believe, is from a magnesium deficiency caused by this antibiotic. So we've got the drugs, we've got the fluoride in the water, we've got chlorine in the water that will do the same. So then we've got the incredible stress that people are under. If you're an athlete and you're sweating out magnesium, but you never replace it. I mean, I could go on and on and on with 100 different reasons why magnesium can be depleted in the body.
So having said that, what's a fellow and a girl to do? I mean, we hear about, Georgia was talking a lot about vitamin C and how important these things are, but just because something's good and we need it, if we go to the health food store and buy it and start taking it, is that a good idea as well? In other words, I'll spend an hour with you and I'll say, man, I just need to take some magnesium. Listen to all this stuff this doctor said. Is that a reasonable thing to do? I mean, just to go out and take extra magnesium and without knowing anything?
It actually is with magnesium, Patrick, because what's happened with magnesium, it's got an incredible, what I call a fail-safe. We can look at evolution where humans grew up near oceans. And in oceans, there's at least 3 times the magnesium as there is calcium. And they're a sister pair of minerals that work together, but they also, beat each other up. So what happens with evolution is magnesium fail-safe is the laxative effect. If you get too much magnesium from your seaweed and your fish and, all the magnesium in the soil around oceans, then it protects you from any side effects, whereas calcium does not have a fail-safe because when we grew up evolutionarily, we needed to bind up as much calcium as possible because it wasn't so available. As I said, we've got way more magnesium in seawater than calcium. So we developed vitamin D, which is a hormone, not a vitamin. And this hormone, vitamin D, grabs calcium in order to make it more available. But what has happened in the past 50 years is we've given people more and more calcium. We've forced every woman to take high calcium supplements beyond their requirements and beyond their ability to process, to the point where now we've calcified people. We've got the studies the past few years, British Medical Journal, showing that women who take calcium supplements are at high risk for heart disease, and we've seen this happening. We've always wondered, well, why are women developing more heart disease all of a sudden? Well, it's the calcium, and women are developing breast calcifications and gallstones and kidney stones and heel spurs by this calcification. We've fortified food with calcium, but we've ignored magnesium. And partly that's because we don't have good measurements for magnesium, so doctors have ignored it.
So a lot of this calcium over the last 50 years have ended up in the arteries and other places where we don't want it.
Exactly.
So overall, we probably don't even need to think about taking extra calcium.
Well, when you look at diet lists, if people are eating even a little bit of dairy products, you get about 300 milligrams of calcium in a yogurt, something that people now consider a health food. You probably only need about 700 milligrams of calcium in your diet, but our RDA is about 1,500. When you look at the UK and the World Health Organization, their levels for an RDA of calcium are 500 to 700 milligrams. So actually, I'm doing a third edition of my Magnesium Miracle book with Random House, and I'm stating in there, look, you can get your daily needs of calcium from your diet, but you can't get magnesium. You can soak in Epsom salts baths. You can take oral forms, pills, powders, liquids. You can spray it on, and you can follow it with a blood test that doctors really aren't using it, but it's readily available. It's called Magnesium RBC, and there are online sources for ordering your own test. If I can mention a site I'm not related to, but it's called requesttest.com. They have a $49 magnesium RBC test that your doctor probably doesn't even consider, because what the medicine does is a serum RBC test. Only about 1% of your total body magnesium is in that serum test, so it's an inadequate, dipstick for your magnesium levels, because the body will make sure there's enough magnesium in your serum at all times, because it keeps your heart muscle going. We didn't even talk about what magnesium does to muscles. It helps the relaxation phase and the quiescent phase of muscles and nerves, whereas calcium tightens up muscles, causes the contraction phase and the firing phase of muscles and nerves. So if you don't have enough magnesium and you have, therefore, a relative increase of calcium, your heart muscle is going to go in contraction and can cause angina and even heart attack. You've got athletes who will drain their bodies of minerals, including magnesium, on their marathons, for example, and end up having a heart spasm and a heart attack and die. And people will say, oh, I wonder what's going on there. And they're not looking at the electrical activity of the heart and the absolute requirement for magnesium. So I tell people, look, you can be your own test trial of one. Do your RBC magnesium tests now at requesttest.com. Look for an optimum of around 6.5 milligrams per deciliter, and you can then take your magnesium in whatever form you like. On my website, I have different recommendations, and follow it every 2 or 3 months. Do a blood test. You see, what we used to say in the past was, well, take enough magnesium until you get the laxative effect.
Yeah, just like the vitamin C, right?
Right, and then back off, and then you got your dose. But you got folks like me. I have kind of mild IBS. I've written a dummies book, IBS for Dummies. So I've researched all of that. And if I take any form of pills or powders of magnesium, I get the laxative effect. So in order to stop my absolute magnesium deficiency symptoms of heart palpitations and severe leg cramps, Charley horses, I have to take a form of magnesium called a picometer form that I've actually researched and developed that will allow me to absorb that magnesium 100% into my cells, and it doesn't get anywhere near the gut.
Pretty cool. 19 minutes after the hour, Dr. Carolyn Dean, you've obviously thought a lot about this. How many books do you have relating just to magnesium?
I think it's about 3. And as I said, I'm doing this update. This Magnesium Miracle book, it is a bestseller.
Yeah.
I've been, it's been up to 80 in Amazon, .com, where we have no idea what that means. But a lot of people are reading about magnesium. A lot of people are taking it now, and I get all the emails from people saying things like, well, when I took magnesium, I started to feel worse. And that scares people. But we really haven't got enough research on magnesium that allows people to realize that when you take something like magnesium that's utilized in every cell of your body to make energy, to help digest carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. People on high-protein diets find they need more magnesium.
Why is that?
Because magnesium is utilized to metabolize a protein using more molecules than, say, a high-carbohydrate diet. When you take vitamin D, you utilize more magnesium molecules because people aren't talking about the fact that the storage form of vitamin D that you take when you take these high doses of vitamin D has to be metabolized into the active form, and what helps metabolize it is magnesium. I get emails, people telling me that, I took high doses of vitamin D and all of a sudden all my magnesium deficiency symptoms came back. Or the worst, a worse scenario is someone who doesn't know anything about magnesium and they take vitamin D and they get seizures and heart spasms and muscle spasms, and they don't realize that vitamin D requires magnesium in order to turn it into the active form. So I tell people, well, if you're doing vitamin D, if you're doing calcium, you're going to need more and more magnesium. And, maybe the bright thing would be to cut back on those supplements that require more magnesium, get your magnesium in balance, and then take low doses or follow your vitamin D levels. I tell people to go for a low normal of vitamin D and a high normal of magnesium because, like I said earlier, Patrick, with vitamin D, if it's a hormone, which it is, hormones work on a biofeedback system. If your vitamin D is low, isn't that your body trying to tell you that, hey, maybe I have enough calcium and I don't need to grab more, and my vitamin D is going to reflect that. But instead, the way we look at vitamin D as a so-called vitamin, if it's low, we immediately assume we need to pump in more. And then the allopaths get a hold of it, and they're giving people 50,000 units.
Vitamin D?
Of vitamin D2, which is the synthetic. I hear it all the time. I do a telephone consulting practice, and people tell me I got into real trouble. Seriously, I have people who say my son had a seizure when they put him on this 50,000 units of vitamin D, and they go searching the internet to find out why, and they come across magnesium. So the things that can happen to people when they take magnesium or when they need magnesium can baffle, most doctors because they haven't studied this. I mean, you can feel worse when you're taking it because your body has been so deficient that you give it a little bit and you start revving up the thousands of biochemical interactions, and then the body it needs more. It's like you've turned the key on and then you take the fuel away right away. So it's almost like an immediate withdrawal where people think, well, I'm getting worse on magnesium, but really what they need to do is start slowly and keep going.
If you'd like to ask Dr. Dean a question, you can do that a couple ways. Patrick at oneradionetwork.com. We're live here this morning. Patrick at oneradionetwork.com, and also email. Well, that's in the email, but the telephone number, 888-663-6386, Dr. Carolyn Dean. So I want to go back. So if you just do a regular blood test and they give you your magnesium levels, which I guess they do in a lot of these tests, right? Calcium, magnesium, sodium. That is not, you're saying that's not really what it is because the body is doing everything it can to keep enough magnesium in the blood?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. The biofeedback mechanism is let's not let the heart go into spasm.
Yeah, let's keep it in there.
Let's drag it out of the bones and the muscles where most of the magnesium resides and keep the serum levels normal. It's gotten to the point, Patrick, where you do not see magnesium on a chem screen. On a chem screen panel, a standard blood test, it'll show your sodium, your potassium, your chloride. It will not go anywhere near magnesium because I guess over the years, doctors have said, well, it always looks normal. Why bother?
Oh, but the body's making it normal because it's stealing out of somewhere, so just to keep the heart happy.
Exactly, and actually, something that will fascinate you. One of the people I interviewed for my book, Dr. Mildred Zelig, she's passed away, but she was an incredible magnesium expert that wrote books and papers, and she, in her first job out of med school, went into the drug industry, and the company she worked with wanted her to research what happens to nutrients when you take drugs. And she found out very consistently that when you take drugs, the blood levels, the serum levels of magnesium become elevated for a number of weeks, and then they decline sharply. So what she determined from that is that the threat of drugs, the need to detoxify and neutralize drugs, which is another thing that magnesium does very nicely, the threat of the drug will flush and steal, as you say, magnesium out of the bones and muscles. And Dr. Zelig speculated that, hey, isn't it maybe magnesium elevation in the blood that might be causing some of the beneficial effects of these drugs? And then, whoops, all of a sudden, 6-8 weeks later, the side effects really come storming in because the magnesium has been so depleted.
Joe writes in that sometimes late at night I'll get Charlie horses or cramps in my feet or my legs, and people have said that, oh, that's just a magnesium shortage. I've taken it, but it hasn't really helped. What could possibly be going on?
Not taking enough.
Taking enough.
We seriously say to people, even with something like insomnia, where there are lots of advertisements about magnesium for calming you and for insomnia, and people will say, well, I take it and, it helps a little bit. Well, take more. And that's where I can start saying this, very clearly, because you can get a blood test. You can do your own magnesium RBC test and see whether or not you have the optimum. And I'll tell you, Patrick, what happens even with that blood test is they give a range, and the range is kind of like 4.2 to 6.8, somewhere in that range, is milligrams per deciliter. And as I've said earlier, we want to be 6.5. We don't want to be 4.25, because that's what a doctor will say. If they look at the test and you come back with a 4.25, they'll say, oh, you're within the range of 4.2 to 6.8. And we say that range is taken from the sick population, 80% of who are deficient already. So why do you want to be there? Why don't you want to be optimum? And that goes back to what I said about the government, the NIH, when they're talking about supplements, it's got nothing to do with health or optimization. They just want to make sure you don't die because of frank deficiency.
Right. So that's a very interesting thing about the ranges. They're using just all kinds of sick people and for these ranges, and so I guess that's why Dr. Huggins and people like you, Dr. Hal Huggins, is going to be on tomorrow. He's come up with these what he believes is his optimal ranges over the years. He keeps changing it, like he'll move it. He'll say, he does thousands of blood tests. He'll say, I think this sodium needs to be 141, I think, or his cholesterol, his favorite cholesterol number is 222, which is
exactly,
a little bit out of the norm,
Well, and it's crazy because Dr. Huggins and I went to medical school and dental school at the same time, where the normal cholesterol was like 240, 250.
Yeah.
And what they've done is beaten it down to allow the production and distribution of statin drugs.
It's I know, we know that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So it's very sad because you get down to a cholesterol of 180 and you don't have enough fat in your brain to keep your brain functioning. You don't have enough fat to let your hormones function, and right alongside with statin use comes the prescribing of Viagra because you really cannot get it up anymore.
Yeah, because you don't have the testosterone. Nothing's happening.
Exactly.
Sad. I was talking to a cardiologist and said, well, what do you do, like, if you want to do a natural kind of chelation? If you get folks, with atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis, what do you do? And she says, she's a real nice lady, she goes, oh, they don't want to do that. They just want me to fix it. They don't want to. Isn't it interesting? She said,
right.
No, they don't want. They just fix me. Fix me.
And they will be following doctors to make sure that they do the standard
care
operating procedure. And if they don't, they'll censor them. And
they get in trouble. Yeah.
The natural chelation is magnesium.
Is it?
Magnesium solubilizes calcium in the body, in the blood. It helps direct calcium where it's needed in the bone. It is part of the bone structure. Magnesium is part of the bone structure, which makes the bone, I'm not going to say rubbery, but it takes away the brittleness of a straight calcified bone. If you drop a bone that's just calcium carbonate, it shatters. If you drop a bone that has calcium and magnesium, it bounces.
So Dr. George was talking about the vitamin C and the getting rid of the keeping the arteries clean. Pauline's work and all these people. Is there any problem with taking vitamin C and calcium together?
And calcium together?
No, I'm sorry, magnesium, excuse me.
No problem at all. I mean, they kind of interact, but I'm in agreement, I think, with what you were talking about, that the vitamin C out there that's been designated as vitamin C is really just ascorbic acid, which is only one of about 12 of the vitamin C complex components. So we're really not getting a good balance when we take just ascorbic acid. But at the same time, I'm on the board of the Orthomolecular Medical Society, where we put out newsletters about using ascorbic acid. And as a kind of a medication, it's doing incredible work. But at the same time, I tell people to take a food-based vitamin C, and that, along with magnesium, is very important for the heart function, for the adrenal glands. It's important for the way the collagen is produced. So all these supplements are critical, and although I've been accused of just being magnesium centric. I kind of stick with that because I'm still a generalist, because when you look at magnesium, and it does so many thousands of things in the body, magnesium is a generalist. And I tell people in my writing, in my consultations, in my interviews, just start with magnesium. People get so frustrated because they'll go to naturopaths now, and naturopaths, a lot of them are just green allopaths, where they look at a list of symptoms and they'll match up each symptom with a supplement. So you go home with $1,000 worth of supplements and you're not even taking any magnesium because, I'd rather give an expensive esoteric supplement than magnesium. I get clients who'll come to me on 80 different pills, and from, a naturopathic doctor or a nutritionist, and their problem is digestive issues. And I said, well, it's no wonder all you're doing is swallowing pills.
Dr. Dean, you said something interesting that kind of contradicted, but that's what this show's about. That's okay, this whole ascorbic acid thing. So I want to dig into that a moment. So please take a break. Thanks for getting up so early. It's 5:30 in the morning in Maui, Hawaii, with Dr. Carolyn Dean. And I'm going to go back to the ascorbic acid because she said something that was a little bit different from what George and other people are saying about this ascorbic acid. We'll find out and also get to all your emails, so stay right there. Here's health motivator Daniel Vitalis on colostrum. With this autoimmune phenomena going on, do people risk getting their immune system too good with colostrum, Daniel?
Colostrum is one of those amazing immunomodulators, and that's something we've talked a lot about, Patrick. Immunomodulators are substances that help to bring our immune system into balance, and that's different than something that's an immunostimulant. An immunostimulant would be something that stimulates, almost whips the immune system up into a frenzy, whereas the modulator helps to turn it up or turn it down. So it's important to know that if somebody had a hyperactive immune system, colostrum wouldn't exacerbate that, would actually help to reduce that down to the optimal level. And of course, if somebody was immunodepressed, colostrum would help to bring their immune system up to optimal as well. So it's good to think of colostrum as a modulator, not as a stimulant. It'll help to bring anybody's immune system into that perfect balance.
Oh, that's great. It's just part of our life around here. Try some colostrum, all kinds of sizes. Now they have big bags as well. Click and order on any of these Thrival links on the front page of OneRadioNetwork.com. Really lovely product, lovely. Consider it. They got the big bags now if you really like to take a lot of it. And it's a great food. We like to mix it with this one right here. Just listen up. A listener asked Stephen Hewer of One World Way, what about radioactive particles that may be floating around?
The body can detoxify itself of the radioactive particles if it's producing glutathione, which means that if you're taking away protein, your richest source of the amino acid called cysteine that is needed to produce the glutathione in your body is found in this whey. There's no other whey protein that's going to give you more bioavailable cysteine because they're all heat processed, which has destroyed and denatured the cysteine molecule. So you're taking a food that will increase your glutathione and thus protect you from radioactive fallout, such that if you're exposed to it, your body is more capable of either preventing free radical damage and or neutralizing the incoming element to be excreted through the bile. And glutathione is what represents 60% of your phase 2 liver detoxification, and it represents the largest percentage of the cell's ability to detoxify and neutralize free radicals.
That's interesting. Other people have told us the body must make glutathione, and it makes it from cysteine, available in raw, grass-fed, One World Way. Click and order. Front page, OneRadioNetwork.com. And we have Neller, we have chocolate, we have strawberry, raw grass-fed whey, a little bit of stevia, natural stevia, also a very natural, really beautiful vanilla extract thing. That's it, raw grass-fed. And actually, the farmers are Amish farmers that do this. I know, it's crazy. And you know how they love moo cows. Click and order right on the front page. Maybe get a small container, the small one, and then see what flavor you like. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and then get the big 5-pound can and then have a party. Don't forget Vitality Herbs and Clay, one of our favorite companies. This pyrophyllite clay of the Northwest is a beautiful, silky clay, just wonderful internally, externally. Take clay baths, help to detoxify. You can mix up the clay internally. If you got a little chlorella going on and some other things, a lot of people say that will bind with the heavy metals in the digestive tract. Hear the rain? Oh, man. Rain in July in Texas. Boy, that's unusual. The rain angels have come. God love them. Yeah, when we built the studio, we forgot to think about having a tin roof. Well, my windows are open, too. It's such a beautiful, cool morning. So we have a rainy, it's almost like living in Hawaii. Anyway, this clay is really nice to take. We think it helps to detoxify the body out of the gut. And click an order right on the front page of One Radio Network. Call up Michael King. His number's right there. Mention One Radio Network. Don't order online. Just call him, and he'll fix you up with a 2-week supply of Earth and Ormus.
We are listener supported. One Radio Network. Talk to Patrick now. 888-663-6386 or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Dr. Dean, there's a beautiful song in Hawaii. Remember the song, Soon It's Gonna Rain? I can feel it. Or it's raining here. Can you hear it?
I can. It's quite amazing. I live in the desert side. We depend on irrigation, but we have an ecosystem, the EO Valley, where we get the second highest rainfall in the world. So we have a lot of water that we just pipe over to us here.
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful island where you live, Maui, where it's about 20 minutes before 6 o'clock. Do you generally get up this early?
Yes, I do. It's not a burden at all. I love watching the sky lighten up, and it's often very pink. They talk with sailors, take warning when you see a morning pink sky, but here it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask, wow, really coming down. I'll just speak up. I want to ask about ascorbic acid. Now, you alluded to the idea that maybe ascorbic acid was good in the testing that does stuff, and we talked about it last week. Our guest was saying it's perfectly fine. But are you saying if you're going to do ascorbic acid, you want to also do vitamin C's with all the other components?
I do say that because if you're just using ascorbic acid and thinking you're doing all the aspects of what vitamin C complex does, then you're mistaken because there are 11 other compounds in so-called vitamin C. The doctor that kind of discovered ascorbic acid was appalled when he found that people were just calling vitamin C ascorbic acid because there was so much else to it. I mean, we learned that about the B vitamins. It's not just one B. We learned that about vitamin E. It's not just one E. It's a complex. So I just appreciate balance, where if you use ascorbic acid, yes, it does incredible things with bowel cancer, etc., but it also needs to be balanced with the other components.
And how do you get those?
In food, in fruit, or in food-based supplements. There are a number of good companies out now that have food-based vitamin C and the other vitamins, of course, but I definitely get my people on magnesium, food-based B complex, food-based vitamin C, and that's about all people need to begin with. And when you're talking about radioactive particles and the glutathione, magnesium is absolutely required to make glutathione. So I absolutely recommend the raw grass-fed whey, but I tell people in order to process that, make sure you take your magnesium. You mentioned clay baths to detoxify. Yeah. Part of what helps is magnesium in this dirt.
Yeah, it's got a lot of magnesium. So now a food-based vitamin C, let me go back to that. It's very difficult to get like high doses, but maybe with the ascorbic, you don't need?
Yeah, no, see, we've gotten to the point, I saw this, I've been at this for about 40 years, Patrick, and I saw how the supplement industry went from natural supplements, because that's all we had in the beginning, And all the early studies were done on diets and showing what the vitamins and minerals did. And then all of a sudden they went synthetic. And when you start with synthetic vitamins, it's a different rotational form. There's a levo form of these chemicals and a dextro form, left and right. And the natural form is what the receptors will open up to. The unnatural synthetic form is what the receptors will not open up to unless they're jammed with high doses of the synthetic. So I saw my doctor associates, they'd start with oral, and that's not working like it used to. Let's do IM supplements, and that didn't work, and then it was IV. So they kept going to higher and higher doses to try to jam these synthetics in. So that's where I just said, hey, what's wrong with this picture? And early on began to tell people to try to get it out of food, to try to get it out of food-based supplements. And the lower amounts are what the body requires to work properly. I mean, the picometer form of magnesium that I work with, the size of the magnesium molecules is the same size as are absorbed by plants. Did you know that the roots of plants have a size dependency? These rootlets are so tiny, but they'll absorb the minerals once they've been broken down through weather, through the bacteria, through all the processes that naturally go on in the soil. They'll be broken down and absorbed only when they're the right size. That's why plant-based nutrients are great, but as I said, you have to have the minerals in the soil and allow for them to be broken down. So we've got such a problem again in agriculture because the nitrogen-fixing bacteria, the bacteria and worms that break down these minerals, they're killed off by all the herbicides and pesticides. So none of that is occurring to get the right size of mineral into our bodies.
So it really seems more and more, I've been working with this very interesting man with doing hair analysis, and he's really intent on this whole idea of the ratios and not taking a whole lot of stuff to try to get more of this or more of that, but really letting the body kind of balance out through the food. And it sounds like you're kind of on that track as well.
I am, and it makes me think of when I was in my internship in the hospitals, and we'd be doing these daily electrolytes on people, and one day they'd swing high, next day swing low, because, when we'd see high levels, we'd pull off the IV bag, and when we see low levels, we'd ram in the high doses of electrolytes, and we were never creating a balance, and that's what the body wants. And yes, hair analysis done by people who've studied it for years is really quite an amazing way to check for heavy metals, of course, but also this balance.
These ratios,
And the ratios, but, if you're just giving what I call dirt minerals to people and not ones in the form that'll be 100% absorbed at the cellular level, then, we can be creating problems and imbalances.
But are not all of these massive amounts of studies on vitamin C, to go back to that a second, and then we got to take some emails, have they all been done with ascorbic acid? So the effectiveness has been proven scientifically, but you say there's downsides to it as well.
I don't know that I'd say downsides, but it's just misdirection. Sure, the vitamin C studies, what do? They'll study cancer. They'll study specific one thing at a time. But what vitamin C does in the body is hundreds of things that aren't being studied. This is the, unfortunate aspect of trying to scientifically study nutrients. You can't really do a study on magnesium because it does so many thousands of things.
Yeah, how would you study it, right?
Right, and what they've done, I know this, I'm corresponding with a group in Japan who've come over here to Maui to visit me. They're testing magnesium oxide on cancer. They've got some incredible results in animal models. But, I had to tell them, well, look, this magnesium oxide, that seems to be the standard magnesium used in in allopathic medicine is only 4% absorbed into the. I think it's even just into the serum. It's
4%,
not even measured. 4%. So magnesium oxide, which is the one you'll find in drugstores, etc., cheapest one, is a laxative.
So would that explain why from time to time I got a big thing of magnesium glycinate, right? Really clean one in a capsule, no magnesium stearates, real nice company, just magnesium glycinate. But I could do 4, 5, 6 of those, and I mean, I could do it or not do it. I wouldn't see or feel any difference. Does that mean it's just not absorbing any of that stuff, or?
It's possible. The glycinate aspect was marketed for its non-laxative effect, but in my experience, they're about 100, 125 milligrams per capsule, and the magnesium component of it, because it's a compound magnesium, and the glycinate is the second part. The magnesium part may be only about 30 milligrams.
And just if you're on a game show and you had to come up with a number of how many of milligrams of real magnesium we need per day is?
I personally need about 1,000 milligrams a day of real magnesium.
Whoa, that's a lot. But you're a special case because you've got this thing going on, right?
Yeah, I got heart palpitations, leg cramps, and I'm sure I'm one of these people that wastes magnesium. I just lose it very, very easily, and so I need to replace it every day. So I'm the perfect person to talk about this and write the book. Actually, Random House asked me to write the book on magnesium when I didn't really realize what I was suffering from, and it was amazing to me when I did the research. Oh my gosh, I'm a perfect example of magnesium deficiency. Here I am about 107 pounds, 5 foot nothing, and I need 1,000 milligrams of magnesium. And as I said earlier, I couldn't take any other form but this picometer size because I would get the laxative effect. In other words, I couldn't get the therapeutic effect of magnesium before I got the laxative effect, which I think happens to a lot of people. Or as our previous emailer said, they took some and it didn't help. Well, they probably just took one pill of something that was 30 milligrams. And, I had an email the other day from someone who had such back spasms that they had to go into traction and all kinds of other magnesium deficiency symptoms. And they said, well, they started high-dose magnesium baths and oils and liquids and pills, and most of the symptoms went away except the back cramps were still pretty bad. And I said, look, you've had so long a period of time with magnesium deficiencies. Your muscles have been cramping so much, your muscles have shortened.
Oh.
And so you need to do gentle stretching. Spray yourself with magnesium oil on your back and then gently start stretching these muscles out, because the shortening of muscles will cause a lot of pain and a lot of spasm alone.
Mm-hmm. So you have this on your website, I guess, this picometer. That's your all-time favorite as far as getting magnesium into the cells?
Into the cells, absolutely. But I recommend everything. Like if someone has constipation, and 60% of the population is constipated, take magnesium oxide. Get your magnesium RBC levels. Spray it on if you have muscle cramps. Take the picometer size if your levels are still low. Take it in any form. There are great magnesium citrate powders. Stay with the whole assortment, because actually Norman Shealy, you've probably had him on the show. He did some clinical research showing that magnesium sprayed on the skin will actually stimulate DHEA receptors in the skin. So you're not going to get that when you take pills and powders and liquids. So Epsom salts baths, that's the safest way. I mean, I get people who'll say, well, I'm on 6 different drugs and I'm afraid to take magnesium. I mean, that just really cracks me up, because it's like, aren't you afraid to take the 6 drugs that are causing the magnesium deficiency? So I'll just be very gentle and say, Okay, well, what about Epsom salts baths? Did your grandmother ever tell you about them? Oh, yeah, she used to do them all the time. Okay, we'll start doing them. I've had people in frank panic attack call me. I had the first consult with a person, a 40-year-old gentleman in Canada. And I said, okay, do you have Epsom salts by any miracle? I was crossing my fingers. He said, yes. I said, okay, plug up your bathtub, put it in, run the water, put your feet in it while we talk. And within 10 minutes, his panic attack was gone.
I'll be darned. Isn't that fascinating? Okay, let's take a few emails, okay? This is from Lisa, and this is about Epsom salts. I give my children Epsom salts bath once a week. Is it safe to use drugstore Epsom salts, or do I need to be concerned about heavy metal contamination?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lisa. One of the parents of an autistic child that I work with, she had store-bought Epsom salts tested and found that there was some contamination. Actually, she did that after she found out, I think it was a hair analysis or some sort of analysis showed an increase in mercury and an increase in some symptoms of her child. So, yes, you have to get food-grade Epsom salts, which is tested for mercury. I have a recommendation on my website. Patrick, I don't know if you have a good Epsom salt or a magnesium
I've been
chloride.
just getting it from the drugstore, but now after this, I don't think I'm going to do that. I've never even heard of food-grade Epsom salts, Doc.
Right. Yeah, there is food-grade USP Epsom salts where it's tested. So, that's the better thing to do. Personally, I will use some drugstore stuff. I'll use magnesium chloride flakes. I'll alternate, but I assume that the magnesium in the Epsom salts will deal with any heavy metal contamination. We're using it in Japan for the radioactivity there. Mm-hmm. We're telling people that the magnesium is going to help detoxify the body because it does. And as you expressed with the raw grass-fed whey, the cysteine in whey helps produce the glutathione, and the magnesium is part of that production. So it's going to help you detoxify. I have grave concerns about people who get so frightened of everything that they're afraid to breathe, eat, or drink.
Yeah.
And I say we're evolving. There's another, world that I live in called RNA drops that people can investigate. Where I'm telling people we can create perfect cells, we can evolve, we can develop a perfection in our cells where we can take care of ourselves as the planet is evolving and we think it's devolving. Well, we can evolve where we can deal with this. The sky may fall, but it doesn't have to fall on us.
Yeah. This is all part of evolution, right? So if we have a little thing we can take, that's an evolutionary process where maybe 500 years ago we pulled it from a tree and it's still a good idea, but now you might be able to pull something off the internet and do the same thing. It's all evolution, Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, the same thing on Epsom salts, another one on Epsom salts, rather. Is it useful to use in baths, say, after a workout? What about ingesting a small amount of Epsom salts to avoid the laxative effect? And what about magnesium flakes?
Yes, we mentioned a bit of that. Baths after workout, yes. Some of the famous athletes now, they'll have their ice bath and then they'll have an Epsom salts bath where they can dunk themselves back and forth. Absolutely after workout, it'll give you your magnesium. And the flakes, the magnesium sulfite, they all work, but ingesting it orally, it would have to be food grade. And what you do with like a magnesium citrate powder or flakes is you sip it through the day. You dissolve it in water. It won't all dissolve because it's not all water soluble, but in order to avoid the laxative effect, instead of taking it all in one dose, you take it by sipping it throughout the day. And actually, I should mention there's a nonprofit site called nutritionalmagnesium.org, where people can get a lot more useful information. There's a free ebook on there that I wrote that you can find out more about magnesium, nutritionalmagnesium.org.
Nutritionalmagnesium.org. So I'm a bit confused, but I stay that way, about all these different kinds, Dr. Dean, of magnesium. We got citrate, we got glycate, we got oxide, we got who knows what. I mean, so can't you just get one magnesium that's got all this stuff in there?
Well, we covered this briefly. What if you're constipated and you want the laxative effect?
Uh-huh.
You take a little bit of magnesium oxide, but then you check your magnesium RBC levels, and I'm still down in the 4s. I want more. So then you could take a citrate. You could take a diglycinate, which is the type of glycinate that I like, or you could take a picometer. Those are the 4 that I've narrowed it down to, plus, the Epsom salts baths and the magnesium oil. It does sound like a lot, but I mean, seriously, people have to do their own research.
Yeah, you got to figure this out. They
cannot just say to me, as a lot of people do with emails,
"What do I take?
What do I take?" And I, give me a break. You got into this problem by asking doctors what you can take, and ended up on 10 different drugs, and now you're asking me. So we've gotten ourselves into a bind where we have to do our own research. And I know, I'm
that's cool. No, I'm with you. Well, that's what we go for, because we're really finding out we have to be our own little scientists here, because that's the only way it's not going to happen. I mean, it's not going to happen. Okay, so now you kind of narrowed it down to 4. Let's repeat those so we have that clear. So it's picometers 1.
Right, for getting 100% absorption into the cells for people who don't need the therapeutic effect.
Okay.
The magnesium citrate is there's a powder in the marketplace that's the most commonly found, and you dissolve that in water, either hot water or plain water, and sip that through the day.
And what's that good for, essentially?
Well, that will give you a gentle laxative effect if you want it, and we don't know the absorption rates. I mean, I didn't even talk about the best test is an ionized magnesium test, which is still at the research level, which will tell us what gets into the cells. Until then, we'll use the magnesium RBC. But the citrate is well absorbed, but for me, it gave me the laxative effect, and I didn't get the therapeutic effect. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I could narrow them down to those 2.
Those 2.
Magnesium citrate in powder that you dissolve, and the picometer magnesium, as well as a nice Epsom salt bath.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. This magnesium RBC, people are asking about this on the email. So requestatest.com, I guess, is where you find that. Mm-hmm. And then, so this is pretty accurate. This is different from the blood serum, right? The serum.
Well, it's accurate as long as you make sure you go for optimal. And you see, this is where the accuracy is like Dr. Huggins does, trying to
find that number.
Yeah, find the number that's going to make you feel good, not just the number that puts you in the same box with every other sick person.
That's right. Okay, this is from Paul. He's in London, listening this morning. Does magnesium have any effect on vitamin B12?
Vitamin B12, I think I have a note in some research notes where they interact together, but I really can't say more than that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Paul. Mm-hmm.
Tom writes, can you ask the doctor what is the best absorbable supplement containing magnesium? Love the show. So have we covered that?
The picometer is the best absorbed. And I know that from my personal experience. What happens with the picometer, you look at, as you break it down, dissolve it, you look at it under an electron microscope, and you can't see it anymore. It's so tiny, it's beyond resolution.
Well, what are some high magnesium foods?
Good point. Seaweed.
Seaweed?
Dark bitter chocolate without sugar.
Now you're talking.
No, but listen to this. When you just ingest sugars, sugars require about 25 molecules of magnesium to metabolize 1 molecule of sugar.
Yeah. So, but if we take that pure cacao or cocoa, the real stuff, the organic, like David Wolf talks about, that's got a lot of magnesium in there.
Absolutely. I can get the laxative effect from buzzing up some cacao, coconut milk, and frozen bananas.
Oh, yeah. Now you're talking.
Delicious.
So chocolate, let's see, seaweed,
yes,
what else?
Nuts and seeds.
Nuts and seeds.
And I tell people to soak them, of course, to get the best out of them. And dark green leafy vegetables, but again, only if they're grown on soil that has magnesium.
Yeah. Oh, boy, it's always something on planet Earth, isn't it? Holy cow.
Right. And that's where when I saw the list and I said, well, women especially avoid nuts because they think they're fattening, and kids are being told that peanuts are dangerous. So people aren't eating a lot of sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, and they're not eating seaweed on a regular basis. They eat chocolate with sugar. So that's where I developed, a book, or wrote a book and developed things about supplements rather than saying, get it from your food, which is my common stance, is to try to get things naturally.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Dr. Dean and Patrick. This is from Roger. I take 500 milligrams of Life Extension Magnesium at bedtime. Label says magnesium oxide, aspartate, citrate, succinate, amino acid chelate. Could I double this dose, and do you agree with this particular form of magnesium, or is there a better form to take?
Well, I just know too much. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead. Just let it go. You're in Maui. You're safe.
Exactly. The oxide, of course, is the cheapest, so it's going to be the highest amount. That's the first one mentioned. So it is going to cause a laxative effect. My friend Dr. Russell Blaylock, the neurosurgeon, does tell us to avoid the aspartate because that is an amino acid that can be a neurotransmitter in the brain, like aspartame. He says it can be low doses, and the magnesium part can antidote, but he's concerned about aspartate. The other two are fine. Personally, I wouldn't use an aspartate, and the oxide is going to give a laxative effect, perhaps before you get to therapeutic effect. So I would go to the picometer and the citrate and do a magnesium RBC test.
Yeah, another question about leg cramps and cramps in the feet from Julie. So again, if that were the issue, which one would you go for first?
I'd be doing the Epsom salts baths and then the citrate and or the picometer, and do stretching because of the shortening of the muscles.
Yeah, nothing like short muscles, huh? My goodness. Let's see. This is from a doctor that we know. He's a chiropractor up in Michigan. Hi, Patrick, another expert in magnesium right here. 91% deficient 2 years ago, now under 10%. Combination I used was magnesium, transdermal, ancient minerals, magnesium citrate, glycinate from Cal, and 1,600 milligrams per day. Still cramp a little bit in the left leg, but it's almost gone. Wow, 2 years to get to magnesium deficient.
I know. Some people will intensely treat, and they'll tell me after 2 weeks of spraying, 30 times a day magnesium oils. I think Ancient Minerals also has a magnesium oil that you can spray, and they have magnesium flakes. And people will tell me that they can really overcome a lot of symptoms very quickly, but I don't recommend that, especially when I'm speaking over the on the radio, and I don't know where people are at, because it's a detoxifier. You can start, having quote-unquote healing reactions when you have enough magnesium in your body to dump out toxins and clear your cells of all this debris and heavy metals.
So just like the vitamin C and other good things, the magnesium detoxify heavy metals out of the body.
Yes.
Yeah. Nature's way of doing that, God's way of doing that.
I know. I'll have people calling me on radio shows. I have my own radio show on achieveradio.com on Mondays, and people say, well, I'm using EDTA. I can get in the health food store. And I say, man, you take EDTA without being followed up, you pull out all kinds of minerals, not just heavy metals. So, we have to be,
careful
about what's available to people. And yes, we are left to our own devices because the doctors have abandoned us. I mean, I know I went to medical school. They did not tell us anything about anything I've said today. And yet at the same time, when I did my 200 hours of biochemistry in medical school, I saw all the formulas of ATP, and you don't get ATP, the adenosine triphosphate energy molecule, without magnesium. You don't get the Krebs cycle working or the glucose cycles working without magnesium. So we absolutely needed it, but they never translated that into clinical.
Yeah. We had a gentleman on the show a couple of weeks ago, Datis Karazian, who wrote that book on the thyroid, and now he's got a brain book. Pretty well-researched guy. I mean, huge, like hundreds of pages in each book of research and tests. And he said on the show that all these, that EDTA and these other things, DMSA, DMPS, or he said he's not against chelation. Be careful, though, that he says the research shows that oftentimes for some people, not all, but for some people that it puts these heavy metals, takes it out of the body and puts it into the brain.
Yes, when you dump it out of your cells, you dump it into the bloodstream, and the blood circulates through your brain. Big news there. And
big news there.
Yeah, and then the brain will grab it. So yes, I'm in agreement with that. And people will say to me, especially when I talk about vitamin D, maybe you shouldn't take so much. People will phone in and say, well, look, I took 10,000 units and it cleared my MS symptoms, and you're telling me I shouldn't be taking it. I said, no, I'm saying that, be careful, because if I give a blanket, okay, everybody take 10,000, what percentage of people are going to be harmed? So it's something, I guess, ingrained in medical doctors where, I did the Hippocratic Oath. I crossed my fingers because I didn't like the part where they said we could only give our knowledge to the sons of the other doctors.
Did they really? That's part of the oath?
It is part of the oath.
Now, wait a minute. They say something that you can't give this knowledge only to the sons of other doctors?
Yeah, it's translated in that way.
That's really strange.
It was so patriarchal. I didn't want to say it. I avoided my graduation because I didn't want to say it, but they forced me to come in. They wouldn't give me my medical diploma, degree, whatever, without me saying it. So I stood in front of the Dean of Medicine with my fingers crossed behind my back and said it. But with doctors, when I take it seriously, first do no harm. So if I give a blanket statement that, don't take high-dose vitamin D until you, get low normal levels, take lots of magnesium, I'm making sure I, try not to harm anyone. But you've heard me say everybody pretty much can take magnesium, and that is true. The only people that can't take it, like the contraindications, are people on kidney dialysis. But even then, if you get the, form like the picometer that is ionized to the extent it just goes into the cells, it is not going to disrupt the kidney.
Mm-hmm. But, okay. But when we do extra anything, like extra anything, I don't know, just magnesium, piccolo, something, how do we deal with this body of ours that wants to keep everything doc in ratios and balance? And I mean, does the body smart enough to say, well, Patrick is dumb and took too much magnesium, I'm just going to poop it out?
Absolutely, because even at the picometer level, there is a range where you will get the laxative effect. So that fail-safe of magnesium is so protective. And doing your own blood tests, you're doing much more than your doctors even would to follow your drugs. I mean, you're taking these incredibly toxic drugs. most of which, as I said, commonly used, are based in a fluoride molecule to make them stronger, which are neutralizing your magnesium and actually preventing your body from detoxifying these drugs. So, yeah, you're taking all these drugs, you're making yourself magnesium deficient, but there is this mineral that has the fail-safe and the fail-safe of doing the blood test. And if people will Google my "When Magnesium Makes Me Worse," I have 7 reasons there that will allow you to take, do your own experiment. Be the N, which is equals a number of people in an experiment. Do an N equals 1 experiment on yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for you.
I have a good friend of mine who, God love him, a stroke, maybe 65, on about 10, 15 different meds in a nursing home, out of state. God, just challenging. And all these different drugs what kind of magnesium would be like reasonable to give him every day, just to maybe help him feel a little bit better?
It would definitely help him feel better, because most of these folks have insomnia and leg cramps and irritability and headaches. All these are symptoms of magnesium deficiency. So, a simple thing would be a magnesium citrate powder that to put in the drinking water just to sip throughout the day.
It'd help him feel better, right? Which is important. Well, Doc, it's really great having you on the air. Maybe you come back sometime soon, and we'll just do a show on digestion. And I know that you've got a lot of experience with that, with the irritable bowel syndrome. Years ago, I had that little wonky thing going on, and boy, that's like, whoa, not happy. It hurts down there, man.
Yeah, when you get gas and bloating, the stretching in your intestines can be the worst pain. I mean, they found that out during the Spanish Inquisition. They had to stretch the bowel. Cutting and burning doesn't have receptors for that, but it was the stretching. Sorry to be so
that's okay.
dramatic.
I remember one time, it was in the early 90s, I had something that could only be described as some irritable bowel thing. There was just nothing else. And I had this business that I must have been just totally stressed out. And I felt so badly. I felt so bad that I wrote a will.
No.
I'm serious. And I thought I was going to die. That's how much it hurt.
Right.
So you relate to that, don't you?
Absolutely. I think I developed mine in medical school. I remember just, kind of sitting in a bathroom holding on for dear life, while the cramps passed. Yeah.
Boy, they're really painful. Really painful. Well, can we do a show on digestion someday?
I'd love to. I love your show. I love your voice. I think it's so calming and gentle, even for such drastic topics as we're talking about. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Well, it's nice being here. We love having you on. And do you get to see whales there in Maui?
Absolutely. I have a 180 view of the ocean, and I see them jumping in whale season. It's awesome. And I swim with turtles. Yesterday, I saw 10 turtles within an hour.
Swimming with the turtles. Good for you.
And they're as big as me.
No kidding.
Yes.
Yeah. You can swim with them. Well, when's whale season? We'll come out and visit. When's whale season?
It's like December till March, intensive, but they're, they start coming in October and they finally leave in April.
Yeah. And they jump and you can see them jumping around.
Yes, yeah. I saw a whale tail flapping 52 times once.
My goodness. Well, you're a delight to have on the show. We'll keep in touch. And all of your books and all the information, you can get information about this Pico product, Pico meter. Your website is Carolyn, Carolyn, Dean.com. Thanks, Doc. Have a nice day in Hawaii.
Thank you, Patrick.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
Aloha. Okole Moluna. That was fun, huh? That's 6:15 in Maui. Time to get up, have some coconut water, some mango, noni. They have noni like lying around on the side of the road in Hawaii. We can just grab it I love you all very much. Thanks to my dear Sharon for taking care of everything, doing the web designing and the producing, for finding people like Dr. Carolyn Dean, Dr. Hal Huggins, and other people tomorrow, 9 o'clock Central. Have a good day. See you soon.
Broadcasting from the beautiful Hill Country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com.